People got knocked off ladders. There was a big return. There was title changes. There was a lot on WWE TLC, the final WWE Network pay-per-view special, what have you, before the end of this miserable year, 2020. What's going on? It's WrestleZone! If you're with us live on Facebook, hit the thumbs up button. If you're with us on YouTube, hit the thumbs up button. I am Kev Kellum. That is John Clark in Central Pennsylvania. The pain in my ass, John Clark. He'll have some painful comments tonight, but he's wearing his Miami Dolphins jersey. How'd your Dolphins do today before we get into TLC? Pretty good, John?
They whipped up on New England today, so it's a good day.
All right, so we have other people jumping in. Get your comments on screen. Nathan Karzuski says, one of the best pay-per-views of 2020. Jess Alt saying, that was crazy. Melly Mel saying, awesome pay-per-view. Mike Barnes saying, USA Network wanted WWE to have more adult content. WWE stepped up on this pay-per-view. All right, we will get into all of your comments. We will get into the furious notions about WWE Raw's recent ratings. A whole lot to get into on tonight's show. Colin Tessie, you're likely joining us here at some point, and your comments on screen. Everyone who's watching for the first time, I know we get a lot more people on the pay-per-view post shows. Subscribe to the podcast. Hours and hours of content every single week, available on your Spotify, your Apple, what have you, and of course here on Facebook and YouTube. The thing is, you got to make sure your live notifications are on for us as well. So get your comments on screen, especially with us for the first time. Danny Pearson saying, what a pay-per-view. He really enjoyed it. Kenneth Waters saying, awesome. He really enjoyed this show as well. Colin Test, you're going to join us here in a minute. Just overall, what is your take here on this pay-per-view, John Clark?
I'm very happy with the way they ended the 2020 pay-per-view calendar after what we saw from Raw the past couple weeks. I thought that maybe this would be like a usual TLC pay-per-view. I'm not saying that they're the worst. I'm just saying that typically they get forgotten pretty easily. Now tonight, I'm happy with it. I think it's been better than our last couple pay-per-views. So overall, as a whole, I do think that there was a lot of positive things. And let's see what they do from here, because are they going to build off this? Are they going to push the reset button? I mean, what do you think, Kevin? What's going to happen?
There's a lot to cover here. There's a lot to cover, and there's a lot coming out of this show that sets up a lot of different things for the earlier part of 2021. I've been saying it, and this has been the pattern. Colin Tessie, you're joining us right now. He does the SmackDown Double Down for us on Friday nights. Colin, the pattern continues where people say the television week to week isn't as great. But, man, if you're putting down $10 a month for WWE Network shows and you don't even watch Raw or SmackDown, you're getting your money's worth. I mean, you're getting people lit on fire. You're getting people smashed through tables. You're getting matches that you think are going to end one way and end another. And some predictable things that you were expecting to see that you got to see. They were pretty good. Overall, we won't get into ratings yet. We'll do ratings within this show. Give us your 1 to 10 on tonight's WWE TLC if you're with us, especially for the first time. I'm going to get new people on screen here. Colin, what's your take on TLC fresh off the show?
I mean, like you said, Kevin, I think it's just crazy because like we just had a Raw where it was an all-time low viewership. I mean, as I've been talking about kind of every Friday, SmackDown's been doing great, but even then, like just kind of week to week, the product has been pretty lackluster. But we're on a pretty solid run of pay-per-views where they do really exceed expectations. I really enjoyed tonight's show, and I didn't really expect it. I thought it'd be fun, but it wound up being a really solid show that definitely exceeded my expectations. And like John was saying, it's interesting to kind of think about what could happen next, because they're in a number of directions they could take. And while a number of things we saw tonight were predictable, that doesn't mean they were bad by any means. I think that pretty much top to bottom, every match delivered.
There was not a bad match on this show. I think you would really struggle to say, you would have to struggle to tell me that there was a flat out underperforming match on this show. And I felt that, and I tweeted it out, and I don't think that's a controversial statement. I know, obviously, for other unrelated reasons to what happens on a WWE show, there's been a lot of negative, anti-WWE sentiment against the company and the brand and what have you, for a bunch of other things that we'll touch on maybe before the end of the show, if not tomorrow. Also, if you're joining us, by the way, we're doing our special holiday stream. John Clark, you and I have been talking about this. Santa with Muscles. We've decided we will do Santa with Muscles. We will do No Holds Barred, probably in January at some point. But comedian Adam Quaslow is going to join us with us. Likely doing that 90 minutes before Monday Night Raw. So you have a full day with us tomorrow. If you haven't done that, we're going to watch Santa with Muscles. It's free on Vudu. We'll give you the links. tomorrow, 5:30 Central, 6:30 Eastern, if you want to join us for that. So some more fun things for you. But yeah, this is the pattern. Some TV that pisses people off, but then the network shows happen, and Survivor Series was fun. Clash of Champions was fun. Hell in a Cell was great. SummerSlam was great. The Extreme Rules Horror Show, yeah, that was off, right? But this, if you came out of the show saying it was bad, I legitimately think you already wanted the show to be bad. That you tuned in and you wanted to say they're so shocked because you read some things on the internet and they're not doing the fantasy booking in your head. I know everyone says I'm pro WWE. No, I'm pro wrestling. I'm pro people getting over their own BS. And I don't think people get over their own BS, but there is some BS to get into. Let's get into it. Inferno match. The Firefly Inferno match ends the show. This one was insane. This was absolutely insane. This may be the most dangerous thing I've ever seen WWE do. I think this is likely one of the only times you will see an Inferno match feel legitimately very, very dangerous. Hang on. Jumping into the chat, somebody with a run-in. It's a Robert DeFelis run-in. Robert, you weren't booked on this show. What are you doing now, Robert? You're just going to come in and get your little... Go ahead.
We're just getting into the good stuff.
We can't even say the show's good before DeFelis, the party killer, shows up.
That Miz decision was bullshit. Go, guys.
Hey, we're gonna get there, and I'm gonna go off about that too. Don't worry.
Well, let's get them while I'm here, because it was the opener, right? Let's talk about it.
You want to do from the opener up? Then we'll do from opener up. That's fine. The opening match was the WWE Championship TLC match. Surprising decision to go with it, but when you have two TLC matches on a show, it makes complete sense. And McIntyre defends against Styles. This is a very, very violent match. Almost gets involved. Styles does a bunch of crazy stuff. They went through multiple ladders, worked his leg, and then The Miz comes down, and The Miz wants to cash in and makes the match a triple threat, which is, John Clark, almost what I told you would be the worst way for him to do this. And that was the worst way for him to do this. But for a minute or so, it was, who's going to win this belt? Who's going to walk out of there? Colin, were you surprised that Miz interjected himself while the match was happening, not after the match happened?
I was surprised because tactically it was definitely not a good move.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you knew Omos was there and he wasn't about to let Miz like take the title. So I thought Miz looked like a chump here. I thought it was really cool how it was unpredictable, so it really made the match like exciting, and like you didn't know how it was going to end. You know, and any three of the guys could have conceivably won here, and then Drew won. Miz no longer has a briefcase. I thought that was a little disappointing in the sense that, you know, they kind of like, I don't want to say shot themselves in the foot, but now like one of Raw's more intriguing things is gone, and that, you know, you don't have the Miz cash in. You've still got plenty of directions here they can go, but definitely not a good look for Miz. Definitely disappointing to see the Money in the Bank case still getting wasted like this. I saw a lot of people saying, if they're going to do this, why not have Otis keep it and feed into Roman or something? But
Robert,
because I wasn't very happy with the way they went about this.
Robert, the floor is yours. I will even solo you on screen. Go ahead, sir.
All right, everybody. I am solo on the screen because I think this was the stupidest decision you could have ever done with The Miz. Imagine, that's like somebody walking into a 10-car pileup and going, I'm just going to pickpocket all these unfortunately passed away souls, and then somehow being the one who winds up in the morgue when everybody else walks out fine. Miz looks like a jackass. How do you walk into an open season? All you gotta do is climb a ladder. Miz failed to climb a ladder and retrieve an object from the sky.
Robert, can you say ladder again for me that way?
Ladder. He is a dud. He is a dud. And this is a slap in the face to The Miz, who's never been anything but loyal to the company. It's pathetic. It's the worst decision they could have made. And I have nothing nice to say about this portion of the pay-per-view. This was the stupidest thing you could have ever done. John Clark, please take it away.
John Clark, we'll solo you on this one as well. Tell us what you think of it.
When it comes to 2020 decisions, this was by far the dumbest that they have made so far. Why? Well, The Miz cashed in. He had a clear path up the ladder to take the briefcase, but instead he decides to waste his time waiting to climb the ladder, and then later in the match, when he has another opportunity to do so, instead he chooses to go after AJ Styles instead of climbing the ladder. And John Morrison being involved basically did nothing at all the whole time, at the very beginning, and as Colin said, this was a very interesting concept they had going on Raw, and now that's completely gone. And now, what's The Miz going to do? Probably absolutely nothing. And I agree with the people that said, "Why didn't you not just leave the briefcase on Otis if you're going to waste everybody's time on this?" And at least could have been successful, or at least could have been a one-on-one match after this match was over. This was completely stupid, and just doesn't make any sense. And one other thing, James Esponto was right. With that failed cash-in, I am 7 for 7 on my guaranteed prediction.
Guaranteed!
First of all, clearly in my absence, John Clark has stepped up and shown a lot of personality. That was fantastic. This was awful. This was awful. I'm going to let Kevin pretend like it was a good show for the rest of the evening. I bid you all adieu.
Where are you going? You don't just come in. Just give me...
No.
You're out of here? Oh, good for you.
I bid you all adieu.
Little
Goodbye.
Go ahead. Goodbye.
And goodbye. Goodbye.
Don't do the Kenny Omega bang on me. Don't do the Kenny Omega.
That was awful. 0 out of 10 pay-per-view.
Are you saying 0 out of 10 pay-per-view overall? Whatever. I hate him. I love him, but I hate him at the same time. Look at him. What is he doing? Did you see what he just pulled there, Colin? He did Goldberg duty. He came in, got his stuff in, and left, right?
Indeed. That's what Robert does, guys.
Colin, what was your take on Styles versus McIntyre and Miz's involvement? We'll get into the Inferno match. Robert threw off the entire rhythm of the show. I wanted to start from the end,
No, I thought it was cool having that open the show. Like, that was kind of just a nice way to shake it up. I don't think anybody here would expected the WWE title match to open the show like that. And then you got the Miz cashing in. I know I didn't see that coming, and I don't know. Like I said, I was just like, as soon as he cashed in, it instantly got even more interesting. I was excited for the match going in, and then I thought maybe, the Miz cash in afterwards, as we've seen plenty of times, but cashing in during the match, like Seth Rollins over here. But obviously, the Miz not walking away victorious. Not sure where he goes from here, but I mean, a good win for Drew. I saw some people saying, having Drew lose the title in the first place, probably not really necessary, but now he's got this nice win under his belt. Now he can go ahead into 2021 looking strong, and I guess Sheamus or Braun are the next two logical opponents. But like I said, I wasn't happy with the way they kind of went about this whole Miz thing. I thought it was nice to inject even more excitement and unpredictability into this match here, but I think this was, if you had to pick one, like you said, Kevin, if you really wanted to reach, this was probably one of the weaker points of the show in the way it was booked, not in the in-ring action.
I know, but here's the thing. Everyone wants to act like the in-ring action doesn't mean anything. Drew McIntyre looked like a badass. He came out of this match looking like what he's supposed to be, a badass champion who beats the odds, even though he's a really big guy. For a really tall guy, you still believe when he's vulnerable. And that's a very, very hard thing to pull off. Hence why people had to go back to the Performance Center, right? That was part of the reason why those things happen. And if your reasoning for complaining about this is they're wasting the briefcase, listen, did you think The Miz was going to be... Here's the thing. This is no shot at The Miz. I'm not saying he can't be a main eventer again. But he is a perfect complementary player right now. He is very much a complement, and that is okay. This is an ensemble show. There is no one guy in WWE. There's just a handful of top guys. And outside of that, he's a lifer. This is a guy who will have a job with WWE for his entire life. If you think about that, that's how much of a player he is. This isn't a demotion. He was involved in a very, very big match in a big moment. And guess what? He will want revenge. All right. So revenge will be his propellant into the Royal Rumble. People reaching for it. Let's get into the other big matches of the night. We had a huge return. The women's tag team title match. This was spoiled earlier today. We all knew this was coming to some degree. This was the obvious choice, but I don't think the obvious choice is always the worst choice to make. And it was Asuka with Lana being taken out of the match. She had to have a tag team partner to take on Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, who've been terrorizing her. Asuka may be the Raw Women's Champion, but you can't do this match by herself. She can't take them on by herself. Woo! Here comes Charlotte Flair. We haven't seen her since sometime in late summer. June 9th, so a long, long time. 6 months. She did some TV stuff. She's going to be the new Punky Brewster show for Peacock's streaming deal. And this is a big return. And Charlotte had her working boots on tonight. She returned in a big way. She did not look rusty. She was doing moonsaults. She was doing the figure 8, figure 4. She had a really great performance here, and I enjoyed it. And we have new women's tag team champions. This was a great match. The women's tag team titles needed this. I think they needed new champions. I think Shayna and Nia got what they needed out of having these titles. These titles need to have more compelling, more meaningful matches. And I'm not saying they haven't been featured, but a change was needed. And this is a fresh change that could set up maybe a very big match for WrestleMania season if you want to keep those titles on Asuka, right, John? And Flair.
I think I really enjoyed the way they did it. However, the one thing that I did not like was the fact that they just won the tag team championships. And let me explain why. I want to say where I think they're going with this. And where I think they're going with this is the opposite direction of what we had back when John Cena and Batista were tag team champions. We're going to get it the other way around, though. Before, they were feuding and then magically became tag team champions. I think in this case, they will be tag team champions, but things will start to get, a little bit iffy between them, and they will eventually be fighting each other while they are still the tag team champions. They will also be fighting over the Raw Women's Champion. And I think that will eventually cost them to lose the tag champions, and then eventually Charlotte will dethrone Asuka. Because look, who on Raw is going to challenge Asuka next for the women's tag team champion? Oh, you got Peyton Royce or what?
Lacey Evans.
Yeah, Lacey Evans. I mean, come on. The picture is clear to me here, and it's that Charlotte is eventually going to turn her back on Asuka, but it's a matter of how soon. And I hope that doesn't. That will make the tag titles relevant. What I hope they don't do is just kind of have these tag titles like on the back burner and not relevant.
Colin, you want to read this comment here from Spencer Worden? I think this is a great one.
My son cried when Charlotte came out. Got it on video. Crying.
So there still are those people in all of the Wrestleverse that just don't like Charlotte, and they just want to hate Charlotte, even though she's been away for 6 months. Usually when someone's gone away.
Wait. How do you know that's why his son?
Or he was really happy.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I thought.
Oh, those are you.
We need clarification. Spencer, we need clarification. Were these happy tears or angry tears?
Spencer, if you follow us at WrestleZone.com on Twitter, please send us this video. I am happy, with your permission, Spencer, if you're watching, to feature Spencer Jr. or Spence Maniac or the Warden Warrior, whatever the young little Wrestle fan wants to be called. I'm very happy.
Oh, we've got confirmation they were happy tears.
I love kids marking out. Kids marking out for wrestling is gold. There's nothing wrong with it. It's totally awesome. I love going to a wrestling show and kids just being like, "Wah!" I remember watching kids cry when John Cena lost to The Rock.
Like that girl, right? That girl that was angry when The Miz won that
angry
one.
Miz girl.
Dude, my favorite. Think about this. As adult men, all right, it is socially acceptable for the three of us to go to an arena filled with wrestling fans. And some of those fans are children, and to yell at children. You can't do that at anything else. Do you know how many times I've yelled at a kid? Like, yelled him. I'm not swearing at him, but people know. Like, I'm yelling at this kid and telling him, like, no, CM Punk is going to beat John Cena. And you're going to see it happen right now, all right? This is called disappointment, all right? Grow up.
Where children can chant holy shit.
Yes, swearing. My mom's not here. I'm eating a giant pretzel and I'm booing a bad guy. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's awesome. Many times I've been asked by parents when some of the kids are gone, spending too much money on merchandise, right, with the other parent, I'll be asked to yell at their kid. That happened twice, so that was fun when you get asked to yell.
What do you mean yell at their kid? Like for cheering for the wrong person?
Could you? This legitimately happened. Could you also include my son? He's at the end of the aisle. When he comes back, could you include him in the yelling as well? And it was like,
I got you.
Sure. It was. I'll tell that story in a future episode. Let's get back into it. Charlotte back in the mix. Colin, is she in the mix for the Royal Rumble? I mean, this is a big player back in the mix. You had her on the shelf. You had Becky on the shelf. You had a lot of big time female players for WWE on the shelf in 2020. Now she's back. How much does this change the direction now? And she has the women's titles with Asuka.
I think everyone would lose their collective minds if Charlotte won the Royal Rumble. After tonight, a lot of people are upset that she comes back and gets a title win just like that. Not even a title match, a title win, like just off the bat. I'm not necessarily. I'll peel behind the fourth wall here, but I was a little like I love my job, but one downside is that having to kind of follow the news all day, these things get spoiled for you.
You would have liked
you
would have liked
what's
to
going to happen, and it's
have this.
It'll be nice, but I still enjoyed it. But as you said, Kevin, even taking out the spoiler part, I think most people could have expected this, and it still delivered. She looked great in the ring. As Nando's pointing out here, she's now a Triple Crown champion, which is really cool. A Grand Slam champion, which is obviously very good for her. I don't necessarily think that she's going to win the Rumble. I think it could be a Roman Reigns kind of situation where like she'll be in the Rumble, she'll be a favorite, and someone like a Bianca Belair is going to kind of eliminate her at the last second to kind of further boost her profile. I do not see her winning the Royal Rumble because I think, as we were kind of saying earlier, if anything, by winning the tag title, she's got this self-written story to eventually challenge Asuka, and if they can draw it out to WrestleMania, then kind of just works itself out naturally, and you leave the Royal Rumble winner to like we saw last year, whoever it may be, just kind of give them that spot. That would be my take on it. That she does not need to win the Rumble, and I would much rather be given to someone that needs it.
True. It does feel like open-ended with the women of who could win the Royal Rumble. It doesn't feel like there's any locked-in type of person you can put that on right now. Let's jump over to the other women's match of the night. Dean Friss is texting in for the first time. Thank you for joining us for the first time, Dean. First-time viewers, get on screen with this here. We are the most interactive show. These are called super chats on other channels, and this is no rip at any other channel. Usually you have to pay money for that. We're not doing that. Just get your comments on screen. Tell us what you think. Do it live. All right. If you're listening to the podcast, go over our YouTube and our Facebook channel. You guys can jump into these as well. We do them after Raw, after NXT, after AEW. We do both shows at the same time, and the AEW and NXT fans fight. If you enjoyed that thing on the internet, we'll do that. So we'll get into all of it. Dean says, my favorite match of the night was Sasha versus Carmella. This was a match that I think people were saying, oh, this will be the match. I can take a bathroom break during it. This is a match that went on second. It had to follow a TLC match. Not an easy thing to do, right? So, Sasha's cool, but whatever. I'm sorry. She's red hot after The Mandalorian. That show just ended this week. It's all that people are talking about. She's not going to film anything new for it for at least a year. So she's going to have all of that extra star power on her. But then here comes Carmella, a new character. And I got to say this. Carmella stepped up her game. Carmella really, really stepped up her game. There was a lot more finesse in the ring with her. There was a lot more things that looked tight and snug. This is a lot more closer of a match than I think people were expecting. And Sasha Banks wins, forces a tap out, but there's a couple times, they made Carmella look like a strong contender here, a strong improved performance from her, and definitely not a bad match, right, John?
Yeah, I do agree that it was probably, I would say it was probably one of the lower end matches of the night just because of how good everything else was. But
and that's saying how good the show was overall.
Yeah, I mean,
there is definitely a sense of, guys, WrestleMania season starts early this year. When you saw those people coming out, new gear, whenever you see everyone coming out with new gear, that is the sense of the locker room saying, all right, let's go. We're picking this up. And this isn't a normal year. This is like, all right, let's try and make this feel special now.
Yeah, and Carmella has definitely improved. They're still putting her with somebody else, her sommelier, acting as her, I guess you could technically say manager, not really though. And it's almost like, is there just a part of them that doesn't trust her completely alone? Because she always has, whether it be James Ellsworth or anybody, but she's never completely alone. And to me, it's just, there's something there that they're not either trusting or they're not confident in that's causing them to do this. However, the match itself was good. She's definitely improved. I like that they're kind of letting Sasha continue because, listen, plain and simple, if Carmella would have won this match tonight, all of the marks would have came out and said, well, this is because Snoop's going to AEW. Sasha Banks is for the title. So luckily we don't have to hear that.
I'm too smart for the show. Don't tell me. Don't try to entertain me. I'm here to bitch. There's plenty of those people.
So we don't have to hear that, at least for now. But I do think that SmackDown slightly more contenders for the title picture than Raw, so I fully expect either Bianca Belair to maybe be in the picture next. I do think this Carmella thing is not over yet and might carry into the Royal Rumble, but I do think Bianca Belair is probably going to be the WrestleMania feud for Sasha Banks, unless they go with Bayley again.
I think that could be a red hot match. I think Bianca Belair, even with the loss this week on SmackDown, people say she got pinned. Oh my gosh, she lost a match. You don't care about people if they don't come
Who's
back
somebody
from
who was
odds.
champion for over a year?
Yeah, it's guys. Everyone's like, she lost the match. They're burying her. No, she lost the match on national TV. That was competitive to Bailey. All right, this is you don't care about.
I got to stop you there just for a minute.
Okay,
I hate to be that guy.
You're gonna be that guy.
But it wasn't on Fox this past week. It was on FS1, so I wouldn't call it national TV.
Smaller audience, not national TV.
Oh boy. Everyone was something here. All right, so Dillian, Dillian chiming in saying Carmella has stepped up her game. I really liked it. All right, so some people agree with it. I saw plenty of people commenting like that on Facebook as well. Kim Gray, one of our big friends. Thank you so much, Kim. She says the only thing about Carmella that is new is the entrance. It doesn't look like her behind the sheet dancing. She did have a new entrance where she did like
a shadow.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. I dig that. I thought it was neat.
What's weird though?
That's okay, but it looks different. You know, it
looks like she's like Nia Jax or something because like the shadow is so far behind the curtain that.
Okay, I can see what
you
you're saying.
You at least get what I'm saying. It doesn't look like her. I get the comment. It doesn't look like her.
Spencer Worden has followed up with a comment saying that he has indeed sent this video of his son freaking out with Charlotte coming out. And thank you guys for correcting me on that. I was ahead of myself. I'm so primed and ready for people to bitch about a good show.
You're ready for negativity tonight.
Yeah, I'm ready. I came with my PMA ready to go. But let's get into the rest of the show. I do want to touch on another big change on the show. We have new Raw Tag Team Champions. The Hurt Business, they put on their working boots tonight. Shelton Benjamin did some very, very fantastic things, catching people out of midair, trying to do drop kicks, and he was power bombing them. I've never seen people do that. That was super fantastic. The New Day brought it, but they said they were going to have big match New Day. You were going to get big match New Day, and they were really, doesn't matter if they don't have Big E, they're still really going to close in on Hurt Business. And there's been something brewing in the water with Cedric Alexander, and they've wanted to make this guy look like a hot new upstart with a new attitude. It was prefaced in the kickoff earlier tonight with MVP saying that he's giving him a new attitude, and he got it. He jumped into the ring, did the blind tag, and got the win, and did the lung blower, and took away the win from Shelton Benjamin, which means dissension in the ranks maybe. But still, the Hurt Business now has 3 titles. They have 3 gold belts with them on Monday at Raw. You can say whatever you think about Monday at Raw, but a shining part of that show is Hurt Business coming around, right, Colin?
Yeah, business is booming. I love that little thing they've got. I think they're a great team. Can you believe it's 17 years since Shelton Benjamin has held tag team gold? That is just crazy to me. The man is so talented. I should say tag team gold in WWE. He left the company and had some success, but WWE finally giving the man some more gold. So talented, like you said.
I could see some Ring of Honor fans just being like, "Whoa, wait!"
You know, like that myself. Don't worry, everybody.
You corrected it. Don't worry.
But I liked it. A good match. I was very, very happy with it. I will say a little bittersweet in the sense of you've got this nice story of the Hurt Business chasing the gold, collecting the gold. You have to think, wouldn't it, in retrospect, have been better if they held off on the Bobby Lashley match and kind of built him up as this like dominant guy, and eventually, even if he still lost to Drew, kind of waited on that rather than because now like that feels like the natural direction again. We already saw it several times.
But they've also built Bobby back up since then. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
they have.
Much more. Bobby Lashley is much more dangerous than that time. What was it? Sometime in was it June or July? June. I mean, that feels like a miles away. Maybe that's just the perception of 2020, right?
And he got a divorce.
And he got divorced. Then he's dropped some weight. You know what I mean? He's dropped some dead weight in the side. Yeah, and that full Nelson is really, really over, a lot more than it was then. And he has gold on him now with the United States title. And he's beaten a lot of people under that title. He's beaten Jeff Hardy and a handful of their people. Her business looks strong. Cedric Alexander. Remember when people said Cedric Alexander was getting buried, and they put him in this, and now he looks like a stud? Is anyone saying that now? All the people who are lining up and bitching about that, like it's there. Like it's not all bad. All right? It's not all bad. And everything about them does lend itself to being flipped towards what we heard this week. I know we're going to break up the pay-per-view talk a little bit, but I do want to talk about this. They're a big part of Raw. Raw had some underperforming ratings in the eyes of some people this week. And there's been word of network executives and different people furious and saying they want a more adult, not sexy, but adult tone to Monday Night Raw. John Clark, you and I cover Monday Night Raw on Mondays. Sometimes I think it's a better show than people give it. And sometimes it's just like, oh, they tried something and it didn't work. And you see that. Retribution, different things like that. What do you think of the new, possible, more adult tone of Monday Night Raw?
I like it. I'm just a bit confused of what exactly they're going to do with it, because there's two reasons for that. One, when people do think more adult content, they do feel like edgier, more sexual type content, like Attitude Era type stuff with the cursing and everything like that.
I don't think that. I mean, maybe cursing, but I don't see WWE going in the route of having sexualized characters. Let me be frank. I don't think you're going to see stuff like that.
And that's what I'm getting at. And then the second point is that it's hard to think, well, what do they mean by that? Because we did see a report from Wrestling Observer come out today where they did say that, admittedly, USA Network was unhappy with the low ratings. However, they were reporting that they did not demand any more adult content or changes of that nature. So with the conflicting reports, it's going to be interesting to see what they do, because we did see that if there were changes to be made, pretty much Vince and them were going to make them tomorrow. So if we might see, a different direction tomorrow. And I think we'll know right away within the first hour if they are making any changes, because typically when they do this kind of stuff, it happens like right away when the show starts, and then that's when it instantly will start fading away. Colin, do you think it's a good idea for them to go to more adult content? I mean, I can't see why not.
No, and as you were saying, John, I think it really depends on your definition of that adult content. And I don't think, obviously, like as Kevin, you were saying, these like hypersexualized characters are the answer, or
no, I don't think they are.
No, but yeah. I think I've talked about a couple people now, and I think really adult could mean, and in my mind, I hope it means more complex storytelling. And it's so crazy because we're seeing on SmackDown, you've got this Roman Reigns story. It's got layers. It's complex. It's this like
he's talking about people's families. You know what I mean? He's doing
story,
things with conviction, and he's giving his character. He has conviction. There's depth to his character.
Even the Sami Zayn stuff is good.
All of it.
Yeah. And Sami Zayn is like a complete political goofball. Like the idea is he's this overzealous. He's another character driven by hubris. The characters that are the villains right now are the most compelling characters right now in WWE.
But then
you could say they did something for Kevin Owens tonight. You could say that there's a lot of character that was given. The will not die Kevin Owens thing has now become a thing, and losing that became a thing. We'll touch on that. We certainly got some very adult things. We got a monster that was burned by fire tonight. I think you'll get more of that. I think you will get more horror movie-like elements, and maybe that's why The Fiend is there, and maybe that's something they were waiting to do until this time of year, which is WrestleMania time, where you're going up against playoff football, where you're going up against all these different things, and you want to amp the game. Mind you, how many more weeks of Monday Night Football do we have?
2.
Two. So now we're near that time of year where right before Royal Rumble, I'm going to tell you, right before Royal Rumble, we're going to see a handful of things on Monday Night Raw. They're going to feel like they're a pay-per-view match.
We have 6 Raws and 6 SmackDowns until Royal Rumble.
Yes. You're going to see some things on Monday Night Raw that you would be surprised that don't feel like WWE 2020. They're going to feel like, oh, okay, this feels like 1998. It's really not 1998. Everyone's going to say that right away. Let's get into the rest of the show here. It's going to be interesting. This felt like the start of WrestleMania. I'm going to say that. The WrestleMania season. This didn't feel like everyone says it starts at Royal Rumble. Now, when there's so much content, start early. You know what I mean? I say start early. Here is someone with this comment here on YouTube chiming in. WM Wrestling Unstoppable Motion says overall 7 out of 10. It'd be higher if the Fiend won, but other than that, solid show. Do we get into the Fiend or do we get into Kevin Owens and Reigns? What do you guys think next? I don't care either one.
Go Owens.
Go Owens. This was insane. This wasn't the most insane thing of the night. But watching this match, I kept thinking this may be the best TLC match I've seen just two guys have with each other. And in the sense of everyone knew that Roman Reigns is still the guy for WWE going into WrestleMania. He's still going to be in a top match, likely having his title going into WrestleMania. And Kevin Owens is a guy that you haven't seen as a top guy in several years. Certainly a guy who signed a deal with WWE about a year ago. He's going to be with them for the foreseeable future. And obviously WWE wants to keep him. But in the past few weeks, they did something with Kevin Owens. And this is something that Roman Reigns is doing now. He's become a star maker. He made Jey Uso, his cousin, a star, even though he's a complimentary character. But he's made him much more than he was just as a tag team wrestler. And now, and in losing, Roman Reigns is still giving that to Kevin Owens here. This was insane. They went through so many different tables. They went through so many different chairs. They nearly broke Jey Uso's leg. They knocked him off the ladder so many times. And you can't tell me, I don't care how long you've been watching wrestling, you went into this match thinking, they're going to beat each other up, but Kevin Owens ain't winning this match, right? The suspension of disbelief. I've heard this in a locker room, working at independent wrestling shows, doing interviews. I'm not wrestling, but I've heard people say it. And I've heard a promoter go to a wrestler and say, we wanted the challenger to look like he was going to win in that match, and everyone knew he wasn't going to win. And you made that challenger look like he was going to win. And that challenger, you made yourself look like you were going to win. Suspension of disbelief. I want it every goddamn time I put you two in the ring. I saw that. Somebody said that to Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens tonight when they went through a curtain. I don't know if it was, I'm not putting words in anyone's mouth, but suspension of disbelief. You believed in those last few minutes when Roman Reigns was laid out on the outside of the ring and Jey Uso was laid down and all that wreckage, that Kevin Owens was going to get that strap. They got you to believe something you didn't think was going to happen. An incredible performance, maybe the best wrestling match of the night. There was a spectacle that followed it. But if you tune into WWE and you say it sucks and this and they're trying to do this, and you watch that match, you got to struggle to tell me it's bad. You have to lie to yourself in the mirror to say that that wasn't a brilliant performance and that Roman Reigns has shut a lot of people up in the last few months. And they're not booing. They're cheering. Boys, sound off. Kevin Owens, Roman Reigns, just a masterpiece.
I mean, yeah. I have the opportunity to talk about Roman Reigns and what he's doing every week on the SmackDown show. And it's just so incredible. Ever since SummerSlam, this guy has just been on fire in the ring, in interviews, in whatever other segments, just every single time. I'm floored. Whoever's writing his stuff is next level. I've heard Paul Heyman's involved, which would make a whole lot of but then Roman Reigns is taking whatever is being given to him and just knocking out of the park night after night. And I think the best part about Roman Reigns' matches since he's returned is each one is different. You've got Clash Champions. I'll start there. Clash Champions, very personal with Jey Uso, and then obviously the Hell in a Cell. A little divisive where it was so theatrical in a sense of the true story, and then Survivor Series, a very traditional WWE main event with all the shenanigans and stuff, still very solid. This one, so physical, such a war, and I think everyone kind of could, I don't want to say, I can't say new, but as you were saying, Kevin, I think we all thought, yeah, Roman Reigns is going to win, but we're all kind of we bit, we were like, could Kevin Owens actually do it? And that speaks to a really good match.
That's the irrefutable thing, guys. That is irrefutable. That is the thing when you can do something in wrestling that makes people think something is going to happen that they never thought was going to happen. It's undeniable. That's when you watch a movie and you forget you're watching a movie. That's what they did. John Clark, get in here.
Yeah, I definitely am one of those people that I was watching this and there was a couple points I was like, wow, are they really pulling the trigger with Kevin winning this one? I thought at the beginning there was absolutely no chance. If I had to pick one match I was the most confident in the result, this would have been the one. And there was points where it was like, well, maybe they are going to go in a different direction. One thing I did really like about the match is that they got Jey involved really early to the point where the match couldn't go on forever, and then people could be disappointed that, oh, Jey came in and ruined it. He was in it from the beginning, so he was technically almost a part of the match where it wasn't a big deal that he was there. And he did.
You knew at some point he would get involved, so there was that.
Of course, yeah.
And the way that he cut that off right away, where Kevin Owens is like, oh, I knew you were going to be here. Now I'm going to break your leg in a chair. You've been messing with me for a long, long time. And you've been getting in my way with this whole thing. I enjoyed that now, because then it becomes a complete one-on-one thing, and now you kind of at least diminish the outside factor, the family factor.
Sure, and he was involved a lot, but he wasn't involved too much. He was involved at the right moments. Now, this match was very good. If I was going to have any small complaints, it would be that at times when somebody was about to win, it did take a little long for the other person to kind of come in and stop it.
That's a
Like,
ladder match, though. Isn't that just like the fundamental issue of a ladder match, though?
But at one point, it was like, Kevin, why don't you just grab it? He was like almost waiting for like Roman to get in and grab him down. And then the one thing also that just bothers the hell out of me is that Michael Cole and Corey Graves are standing right there at ringside. So when Kevin Owens slides into the ring to stop Roman Reigns, why is it a surprise to you that he's in the ring when the camera pans on him? Like, he went into the ring. You were right there.
But that is also one of those things that, because there's no fans there. There's no physical fans there.
Gotta watch the monitors, Gotta watch the monitors.
Gotta watch the monitors, right?
Yeah, the monitors were broken at that point.
there is no monitors. Like, they just have their headsets, right? But it is one of those things where it's like, oh, if there was fans, you would hear fans be like, he's getting right. You would hear fans do it, but now there's no fans there, so it's like it's almost an overly controlled environment.
The camera's clearly pointed up and pans down slowly,
yes,
and there's Kevin Owens.
And I have no issue with that, because I was like, take advantage of the circumstances. Like, it's classic improv theater. Like, yes, and this is the environment. Let's get more of it, and we got a whole lot of it in the next final match. Because here's the thing: they put on Kevin Owens and Reigns at 8:00, and I knew this show was going to go till 9. WWE pay-per-views this year are down to about 3 hours, 3 hours tight, like 3 hours and change, right? And so they put the match on at 8, and I was like, oh shit, they're going with Randy Orton and The Fiend to end this show. And we knew this was going to be an Inferno match, a Firefly Inferno match. Sure. We didn't know if it was going to be cinematic. We didn't know exactly what we were getting. We knew we were getting some play on the someone gets lit or maybe gets lit or fire gets teased. Fire is going to be the element that teases danger in this match. And I said on Monday, when they did the bit where Randy Orton attacked him backstage and put him in a box, and it was just Bray, and he came out and he had the Fiend gear on, and there was fire, that they have to do an Inferno match. They have to now. There's no other thing you should do. And then they announced it the next day on social media. And when I met with you again, John, on Wednesday, we did the NXT AEW show. You're like, why didn't they do this on the TV show? Like, tell me they're going to do this on the TV show. I do think there was a missed thing not saying this on television. I think they should have said this on TV, because Inferno matches tend to be the spectacle brings you in, right, Colin? But sometimes people leave them thinking like, oh, that was cool. It looked really cool. You get this big spectacle of a thing, but did it really play into the ending of the match of like, oh, the guy's arm just got lit on fire. It's not really the guy. And I had someone bitching at me on Twitter today when I said this is an interesting thing, because I think the Fiend is probably the most compelling character you could do a fire match with. His house got burned down. He has a reason to bring fire into this, right? So, Colin, this was the most dangerous thing I've ever seen WWE do. And they had fire almost everywhere. The match starts normally, and then Fiend, because he has powers, ignites flame around almost every goddamn thing around the ring. Like, there was spirals of flame. There was fire right over the retention barrier. There was axes with fire. He brought out the rocking chair and almost lit Randy Orton with a stream of gasoline. He almost lit him on crotch first. All right. Kevin Owens was punched through a ladder in his dick to lose the title match. Randy Orton almost had his balls, great balls of fire. Like, there was almost literal balls of fire. If you watch the show and you like the Fiend, we'll talk about the ending. You got a lot of fiendish things tonight, right, Colin?
Yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. Kevin, if you're gonna bury somebody, what do you gotta do? You gotta burn the body.
Don't burn the body. If someone got buried, he didn't get buried. He got burned. He got burned all the way down to the card. I want to see that flame. You're going to see Vince backstage. The fire. This was insane.
Also,
insane.
shout out to the Fiend's entrance in the Thunderdome. Was like every single time you can just tell Vince McMahon and the production crew is like, oh, this is such good shit, because you've got the Fiend's like face all over the video screens and everything. You can just tell they like that a little too much, because they make a whole big deal out of it. But that I'm with you, Kevin. The spot of the wheelchair and the Great Balls of Fire, that was probably one of the highlights. A man that he didn't just get lit on fire. He got like literally burned alive. Like he was like doused and like burned. So the Fiend's gone. At least a little bit.
John, you and I were talking a little bit before we went live. They fought a lot around the ring, and it made sense. Once the match started, I was like, oh, this likely wasn't live. This had to be pre-filmed for safety purposes. And then when you saw the rigging around the ring, it was like, oh, they're not like, because I thought for a second, like they're going to go to a Firefly Funhouse setup, right? And then it's cinematic, and then they burn that down, and that's it. Like, I think that almost would have been underwhelming. The Fiend in the ring is an attraction. He is a monster. His presence is otherworldly. That's what they go for, and that's what you get from the entrance. You brought the entrance. He's treated that way. He's treated completely different. He's shot completely different. The way they shoot him is different. When he's at house shows, he gets different lighting. You remember when that with Sin Cara and it didn't work? With the Fiend, people cared about that at live shows. People would hate it on TV, but they loved it at live shows. And so he comes out, it feels different. This match, once the fire came in, this is another one of those things, John, you and I have talked about. WWE playing with the idea of what the Thunderdome can do, that it can give you things you will never, ever see in any other circumstance. They couldn't do that much pyro if there was a crowd there. They would not be safe. You wouldn't. No fire marshal would ever let you do that. I don't know how they let him do the match anyway. Like, what Florida fire marshal said, oh, you're gonna light somebody on fire? Yeah, sure, do it. You're gonna light the ring on fire? Yeah, sure. They almost did. Randy Orton almost burned the ring down. This was insane. The Fiend gets lit on fire. He wears his leather jacket the whole time. Randy Orton had a sweatshirt and pants on. Smart move. You don't want your leg hair getting burned in this one too. And this was insane. And Bray got into the ring on fire and continued to fight a little bit, which I thought was actually pretty cool. And they got knocked down, and it's clear there was a dummy at one point. They did the switch. They made a very convincing looking dummy though, that was in his ring gear that looked very much like, I don't know what prop house you went to make that. They did a really good job.
They could have at least put something in that had like somewhat of a pulse to at least make it look like it was a real person.
Oh, it wasn't moving?
It didn't even move at all.
You didn't see the belly? You didn't see like the chest rise?
No movement, period.
Well, he doesn't breathe air. He breathes fear, John. He breathes fear.
It ruined it.
It ruined it? Oh, come on, John. I think you're reaching here. Colin.
I want realism. I don't want we know
what's real. Really burned.
We know it's fake.
What is real here?
John wanted to see murder on the line.
We know it's fake, but they don't have to make it look fake. We know it's fake, but it doesn't have to look fake. Because we all know why it's probably going to come out tomorrow and be completely fine.
No. Okay, all right.
We don't see the Fiend for a while, right? You can't burn somebody alive and just have them show up.
It'd be one thing if you got like a little fire, but this man was incinerated. We had our man Nando wondering what's next for Bray Wyatt here, and also if this releases Alexa Bliss from his spell. I think, I don't even know. There are any number of ways that they could go. I think this will be a way to kind of freshen up the Fiend's character, which could be very good for him, so that he doesn't get stale. I think those Undertaker comparisons are very valid in the sense of you can, just add another kind of twist to the character. Now make him more evil, more monstrous. I couldn't help but think of like Friday the 13th tonight when you had what's that, Kevin?
You brought up a scene from Friday the 13th. I was thinking the same thing. They did that one time in Friday the 13th movie.
Yeah, he's running when he's on fire, and I thought of that. And like I think that's the best version of the Fiend, where you really do lean into the horror. So he'll be back, and I would expect a little more. They'll keep leaning into the horror elements, and I would expect that maybe. Even though the Fiend was burned alive, I think you could kind of roll with the idea, if they want to, that his spirit, for lack of a better word, is still in Alexa, and kind of keep rolling with that, because it would be very confusing just to have her be like, "Oh, I'm not possessed anymore." That would be what I would kind of hope to see. I don't know about you guys.
We haven't seen her, and we didn't see her tonight, so
a lot of people thought we would.
Yeah, Yeah, we haven't seen her for what, 2 or 3 weeks. So I know
Yeah.
the immediate in this 2020, this 6 months ago, this would be a controversial thing to say. Someone has COVID, but there may have been an exposure or something like that. We don't know. WrestleZone's not reporting that. There's been no reporting of that. We've had fans ask us the past couple of days. There's nothing there. We have no idea why Alexa isn't on the show. Rushing to that conclusion without it being confirmed is unreasonable. That isn't a fair thing to say to anyone. We don't know where she is. We don't know why she's taken out of the picture. It's interesting because they didn't include her in the video package. Very fun video package for this with the night before Christmas kind of rhyming back and forth dialogue. I thought that was some really good stuff. I mean, if you wanted big time, over the top sports entertainment, this was it. It was very violent. It leaned into a character. Bray Wyatt. Here's the thing: the Fiend was burned alive, but I'm still okay with him showing up again because he's the Fiend and he's in this otherworldly thing. And if you're on board, you're on board. And if you hate it, you hate it. Don't worry. There's another act at this circus of WWE that you likely enjoyed more, like Kevin Owens and Reigns. You know what I mean? This is a match for a casual, longtime fan. If you were a hardcore, longtime fan, a diehard fan, you got what you wanted out of Owens and Reigns. Overall, everyone comes at WWE, and I understand this week why they got a lot of flack for things on Raw. The situation with the collective, we'll talk about that in a minute, but let's get into ratings, guys. The 1 to 10. The 1 to 10. I'll hold mine off. I guess people can tell it's going to be a good one. But Mr. Clark, the 1 to 10. 1, 10. We're going to go all the way across the spectrum. You can get points in there as well. A real rating system, all right? Stars are fine, but I think you get a real idea of how good the show is. And I thought WWE's put on some very good shows this year on the network. If you're not even watching Raw or SmackDown, you got some great stuff on the network this year. In terms of network shows, John Clark, what do you give it?
Tonight's show is going to get a 7.75.
Oh, okay. You held back from the 8. Why did you do that?
Just like I said, there was a few things, and I know they might be nitpicky that just weren't cutting up for me. The Miz thing being unsuccessful automatically deducted at least a 1.5 for me for it being a 10. Took it down to an 8.5 instantly. And then I was just a little annoyed with the ending there with the Wyatt thing, motionless, and then also with the whole Charlotte Asuka just instantly winning and Nia Jax and Shayna possibly being left in the dust. There's just a couple of those things that were a little, I guess, like I said, annoying and nitpicky. Great show though, 7.75 for me.
Colin, before we get to your rating, I don't mind talking to people who didn't like a show. I don't mind that. All opinions matter. Just ones that aren't argued or explained well. I won't buy those. You come to my show, bring some real comments. Mike Smith has a real comment here. The Inferno match was a waste of time. It didn't work when it was. I believe Kane and Undertaker who did it. I wrestled in the Indies for 15 years. When I was sitting here watching that match going, okay, let's wrap it up within the first 10 minutes. So, Mike Smith, wrestling on the Indies. You didn't like it. Well, looking at social media, which I know isn't a complete gauge of everything, I could say if you were a casual fan, this is the match you were talking about at the end of the night. It was the way to end the night. And also, Mike Smith, I know you're an independent wrestler. Think of this. Would you want to go on after that? How would you follow that? How do you follow a man being burned in the ring? It's not something you can follow. So I'm not talking down to anyone. I'm talking up to what they did. And kudos to WWE's production team for doing that. There was a lot of very risky, dangerous things that were done on this. And I meant it. You do a fire match, you got to have danger. This was dangerous. This felt danger. Every time they got near fire, the legitimate fire. You're not messing around here. So I was on board with it. I think it's the best Inferno match of all time. And I will say, unfortunately, I do think this is better than any one they did with Undertaker or Kane. This was better. So tell me why it wasn't better. Watch the match and see what they did with it and how everything around the match played off fire. You forgot that these guys had moves. And when they did their moves, it was like, oh yeah, they have moves. They have the mandible claw and the RKO. They did an RKO to a man who was on fire. Okay. So if you wanted to say this was bad, you were going to say it was bad before the bell rang. That's all I'm saying. You can say it wasn't as great as you wanted it to be. That's fine too. Colin, let's get to you. You're 1 to 10 on the show overall.
I'm gonna go for an 8.8, and that's even saying, you know, I'm with John. The Miz thing was really hard to swallow. Even though I was saying earlier how much I really didn't care for that, but the way the cards fell, the way the cookie crumbled, if you will, I think a Miz cash-in was bound to fail. Just kind of the way that, you know, if you want to think if McIntyre never lost the title, they could get away with a Miz run maybe, but they're not going to have McIntyre drop the title at least to WrestleMania at this point, if not longer. So I think even though I didn't really care for the way they did that, I get it, and so I can kind of roll with that. I think that was kind of the big downside. So I'm coming out of the show. I really enjoyed it. You end on a strong note with the Inferno match. I liked everything about it. Like you were saying, Kevin, I really like just how they they told a great story with it. I didn't have a problem with it, and I more than maybe any show in recent memory, I'm very curious and invested in what's going to happen next, because they do have so much that they can do, and I think that's what I usually look for.
You go. There you go, Colin. Weeks ago. For weeks, Colin. Colin, you've been seeing a little bit on SmackDown. SmackDown doing better than Raw in the eyes of most fans. But, John, we've certainly seen it covering Monday Night Raw. People want to bitch. They're burned out. They want to bitch. Hear about AEW, and they want to bitch. Want to tune in? I want to bitch. And I don't watch wrestling. I bitch about wrestling. That's what I've heard some people say recently. But what time of year is it? It's WrestleMania time. This ain't any WrestleMania. This is a WrestleMania that means a whole lot more with everything going on. This may be one of the most consequential WrestleMania seasons of recent memory, and it already is the most important show. And I got the impression watching this show that the creative team, the production team, that everybody wanted to get something in that made them shine, that made them say, look what I'm bringing to the table. When the circus of WWE gives me the spotlight, I'm going to run with it. I thought top to bottom, this was a strong show. When you can say that a pretty solid match is the worst one on the show overall, like we said with Sasha Banks and Carmella, and that's not saying it was a bad match. That's saying how good the show was overall. I don't care how hard you want to try. If you actually watched this show and said it was bad, you're point blank lying to yourself. This was great. This wasn't good. This was great. This had, and some people can argue it doesn't deserve to be great. They don't deserve it. No, stop it. Don't take that away from the people that perform in the ring. Don't take that away from them. This was fantastic. I absolutely enjoyed it. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. If you're just listening to us talk about it, go watch it. Okay? I've seen a lot of people talk about matches they don't see, that they don't think are that great. Go watch it. This was a solid, I'll be right there with you, Colin. This is a solid 8.8 show. This is a show, I think it's almost unfortunate it comes at the end of the year that it won't be regarded as maybe one of the better matches of the year. You could think maybe it could be one of the better hardcore matches we've seen in a long time with Owens and Reigns. Just great. Just fantastic stuff. A lot of shakeup. Good things are ahead. I think I have a I'm like you. I have a positive. I'm going into Monday Night Raw with a positive mind now. And that's good. That's a good thing. That's a good thing, right? DDP did that back in the day. Christopher Brown commenting about Alexa Bliss saying that on Instagram, she said that she's on vacation, that this was planned. This was booked months ago. So some superstars do get that, that she wanted to be out of the mix for a while. Interesting they had her do that right before this match here, where she's been playing such a role. I do know that she was engaged. Congratulations to her, by the way, on that engagement, on all the good news. Let's talk about this collective story, guys. We do have to get into this. This is the story that I think brought a lot of negative sentiment towards WWE as a company and as a brand. John, clue us in on this story. I know you had to be following this. We have not. Here's the thing. On a pay-per-view week before Christmas, all right, you would think, oh, people are just going to talk about the pay-per-view this week. Or they're going to talk about the big things that AEW has done this week. No. They're going to talk about WWE filing a trademark for the term The Collective, which is owned by independent wrestling group, Game Changer Wrestling, GCW. And this got a lot of bad attention for WWE, didn't it, John?
I got into a few arguments with other people about this, and you can only imagine how, since I am kind of a pro WWE guy, that
I'm a pro wrestling guy. You say you're a pro WWE.
That I would get into arguments with some people, but the general conscience here is that WWE applied to trademark the term December 15th, the collective term used by GCW. They have run top events on WrestleMania weekend using this name, and basically it was delayed this past year because of the pandemic, but typically this event is run WrestleMania weekend in the city that WrestleMania is having their event on. Now, here is my opinion on it before you two can say what you think.
Yeah.
These promotions are basically doing these events in the same city as WrestleMania on the same exact weekend. And to me, a big reason they're benefiting out of this is simply because WWE is in the city that weekend. So let's use this past year for an example. WWE was going to be in Tampa for WrestleMania. You have the collective in Tampa on the exact same weekend as WrestleMania. Would it be this successful on any other weekend? To me, these companies are mooching off of WWE and benefiting from it. So
No
to
problem.
me,
I don't have any issue with that.
So I think WWE is well within their realm to say, hey, you ain't gonna come in and steal our piece of the pie. I can't go to Walmart
That's
and
debatable.
I
That's
can't.
debatable. That's
I
like
can't-
here. I'll bring a competitive point to that in terms of like, hey, we're taking over this town for wrestling, and we don't want another big wrestling show in town the same weekend, right? And I can tell you, this is someone who's been around wrestling for now over 15 years, and I'm not a wrestler. I've just been around promoting events and doing podcasts and working in media. This is a big time of year for independent wrestling to run. They lost a lot of money. WrestleCon lost a ton of money having to cancel this year. The move of GCW from Florida to Indiana to do their show this year, that was hard. And I admire what GCW has done. They've built up an event that people look forward to. And is that event as big as WrestleMania? No, and it doesn't need to be. And I see this. But at the same time, my only counteraction to that is, how is WWE able to file for this term, the collective, if it wasn't already trademarked? Why is it available? Why was this? So like where everyone's going off on WWE, it's like, why wasn't that already trademarked? Why wasn't that done? You know, like I'm not blaming anyone for it, but I was like, why is it even a possibility? Imagine WWE calling a show Dynamite right now, what that reaction would be. And everyone go off on that. I was like, well, how did they not trademark that term? Like why did you not do that?
And it makes sense. Like I can't go to Walmart and sell my own stuff outside. They kick me out because I'm on their property. I mean, and I get it. It's not WWE's property.
You set up a tent. You set up a tent in the parking lot. It's called Clark Mart. Come on down.
Yeah, and then I'm selling the same things as them or whatever. Like, so to me, I get why people were upset, and I will admit,
pops. He's got like a 12-pack of pop. He's like, you're just selling loose pops. Go buy them in there. Buy them from me.
Okay, and I'll admit that it is petty that they're doing it, but I mean, it's a business move, and they're stupid for not already having a trademark. And look, what's the likelihood this actually gets approved? I mean, maybe 50-50, but.
And then there's the other element of this, Colin. I don't know if you heard this too. There was a lot of attention on this. WWE got a lot of attention. Independent wrestlers chiming in. Effie was very noted part of it. One of his events is a part of the collective. The collective isn't one event, by the way. It's kind of just like a convention of niche, independent, hardcore wrestling shows. Some of those shows are very unique. Effie had his Big Gay Brunch show, which is very much focused on the LGBT community and inclusive characters like that. Then they have the For the Culture show, which is exclusively African-American performers. And then they have Joey Janela's Spring Break, and they do a show that has all these different freaky elements and fun things. And then GCW has death matches on these shows. It's a lot of fun, unique, elevated things that WWE is never really going. I wouldn't say never going to touch on. They'll do shows like that, and they have characters like that. But it's a different show. It's an underground, hardcore wrestling show. It's a different product. It's very much a rated R show, and I mean that complimentary. You know, I've worked on wrestling shows that could be deemed that, and so to me, it's like I feel for them, but at the same time, this doesn't stop them from running an event, right?
No, I'm kind of in the middle on this one where it's like I'm with John.
I am too. I'm right in the middle on it. I really feel that people just kind of, the reaction is necessary, but I am in the middle on it as well.
Because I'm with John in the sense of like I'm a pro WWE guy, and they're well within their right to do this, and like, but at the same time, like it's weird. I guess I take a different stance in that I'm not surprised at all. Like we've seen WWE do so many like either shady things or, you know, not things that don't like things like this, where the company doesn't look great, they get negative reactions, and it's like this thing happens, and it's like, yeah, you know, I can see that where the independent wrestlers and like that kind of argument's coming from. But as you just said, Kevin, it doesn't stop them from doing the show. And but then like I'm kind of like back and forth on it, because like I think a lot of people that attend the collective shows, as John was saying, these shows are usually in the same city as WrestleMania, and part of that reason is that like they're not trying to take the fans that are going to WrestleMania. They're not trying to like compete whatsoever.
They're mooching.
No, John. They're capitalizing.
Mooching gives the intention, John, that they're taking something from it. That WWE is not going to get these people to go to their show. They're only going to come to our show. And guess what? There's many fans that go to wherever WrestleMania is, and they don't go to WrestleMania. They go to, I want to go to the Raw. I don't want to go to WrestleMania. I don't want to watch a WrestleMania in a big stadium. I'll go for the autograph signings. I'll go for the conventions. There's many fans that do that. And there's many wrestlers that go and do that as well.
Apparently not many, because they don't do these events on like the weekend after WrestleMania or the weekend before WrestleMania. They have to be that weekend, you know.
But they're smart for doing that. They're smart for doing it.
Yeah, they're smart. I don't disagree with that at all.
And they're really smart for doing it. And here's the thing. I know some people say, I heard some people tell me, oh, well, WWE probably doesn't even know what the collective is before they book it.
I saw that too. That's they know.
And someone brought that up to me. I was like, oh, WWE is a huge company, right? And then I heard other people say, well, weren't they trying to name Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro the collective? Haven't they like remotely address that? You know, sometimes they give a team a nickname, but they don't fully call them that. I heard Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler, they were in a title match this past Friday. They're called Dirty Dogs, but they've never, like, they call themselves Dirty Dogs, but once commentary calls you that, that's your name, right? In the eyes of the company. They've never been called that or introduced in the ring as that. And I've heard WWE's call the Artist Collective was the group that they had with Sami Zayn. Was they were called the Artist Collective. They brought that up a couple of times. So I've heard some people say that, but listen, I get it. But the timing of this is specific. Okay, the timing of this backlash lines up with all-time anti-negative WWE sentiment of we want this. I've heard people say this company needs to crumble, it needs to be ruined. They're not and these are people that are doing fan Twitter accounts, and their picture is somebody who wrestles in WWE right now. But I want this company to fall. Like, it's not just like I want them put in their place, or no, I want them destroyed. The overreactions were tremendous from this. Go check it out. It's on our Twitter at WrestleZone.com. Maybe you don't want to get in the conversation. You just want to lurk. Go lurk at all the noise that's going on over there. I know sometimes people just want to see a car crash, but it is in that way. And I've been to many of these shows. They're very, very fun shows. WrestleMania weekend for wrestling is such a special time. And I know some people say WWE doesn't want anyone else in a town running wrestling. I've never heard anyone from the company say that out loud. Never. And that is a fact. I've never heard anyone go on the record and say they don't want other people running a town. I've heard people who are promoters say it's difficult for us to run this town because we can't get in this certain area and we can't do this and we can't book that. And I heard some people say that a couple of years ago in New Orleans, like, oh, everyone in our wrestling show needs a license so that the town gets that's really just the town. That's like a sports commission getting involved. And, you know, so them trying to say, oh, if all these people are going to come in, we want to tax the show, basically. So there's that too. But I get it. Some people are definitely going to have their stake in it. Other people saying, who cares about these outlaw mud shows? It's fine. Wrestling needs independent wrestling. Stop it. Calling everything that is in WWE an outlaw mud show is stupid. Or calling everything that is in AEW outlaw mud show, stop it. Just root for wrestling, guys. There will still be independent wrestling shows the week of WrestleMania. They will still run at cool venues. They will still be unique, once in a lifetime wild shows. Ring of Honor will still run WrestleMania weekend, and you will still have a great time. But I guess bitching is the loudest thing you can do on the internet, right? Why say what you love when you'll get so much more attention if you stick it up to the man? All right, so that's what I think. I know. Thank you guys so much for watching the show. Spencer Worden earlier, I look forward to checking out that video. He said he has sent me that video. We will talk about that on tomorrow's show. Also, tomorrow, I do want to talk about this. I got to write it up on the screen here. Have you guys ever seen Santa with Muscles?
I have not.
You have not. John, have you seen it?
Nope.
All right. We are going to do a Santa with Muscles watch along tomorrow. And this will be on our Facebook and our YouTube, and we'll put the audio out. And this will be on Monday, December 21st. If you're listening to this, you'll get this on the podcast feed sometime after. Obviously, you'll still get a Raw post show as well. If you guys are with us for the first time, this is going to be a really, really fun thing to watch. The movie is available for free. And if a movie is available online for free, how good is that movie? So sometimes the best thing about a bad movie, John, is to watch it with friends. And we're going to watch it with our buddy Adam Quaslow, very, very funny comedian, a cinephile in his own right, loves the movies. Maybe you won't love this movie, but it isn't about loving the movie. It's about all getting together and laughing at a bad movie together. So we're going to do that tomorrow. That is our special Christmas gift to you. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed us ranting and raving about wrestling for 70 minutes. And if you're just joining us here at the end, don't worry. You can watch this on demand later, or you can listen to it on demand later. Go get the podcast. Available now on Spotify, on Apple. That is the WrestleZone podcast, all one feed. We have the SmackDown Double Down with Colin and Bill Pritchard this week, if you're still catching up on stuff. John Clark and I cover Raw. We also have shows on Tuesdays and Thursdays with Mr. Robert Fields, who wanted to run in, not fully commit to the program today. And I do those with him. And then we have everything. We have bonus interviews. We just dropped some really, really big stuff on our interview channel as well. It's all in one feed. Go subscribe. WrestleZone, Apple, Podcast, iHeartRadio, all those different apps. Go get it. Gentlemen, where can they follow you on the Twitter machine?
John R. Clark 12.
Mr. Colin Tossier.
At CT_2110.
I do have to plug the other thing I do, because plug near the end of the show. 101 WKQX is doing this big thing. It's my alternative rock radio station I work for. And every year we do the Night We Stole Christmas from the Aragon Ballroom. But obviously we can't fill the Aragon Ballroom this year. We're doing the streaming thing that everyone's doing. And we are streaming a show this Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central worldwide. And it will feature two of the biggest names in alternative music. And we couldn't say it until they were announced for another big show. So we can now tell you about this. The show will feature on December 23rd at 8 p.m. It will feature Glass Animals, Cold War Kids, Wallows. Three huge bands that can already play Lollapalooza. They can sell out. Colin, where are you at? What town do you live in?
Bloomsbury, New Jersey.
Oh, you just told me a fake town. You live in New Jersey, all right? So you go somewhere in New Jersey. There's the ballroom. What's the big ballroom? I know Cody and Cambria did an album there. Any of those big venues, 3,500 seat venues, any of these bands could sell out those. We're gonna have them streaming safely from your home. Glass Animals, Cold War Kids, Wallows. But you know what we just threw in there? We just said, hey, why don't we get special guest performances from Billie Eilish and the Foo Fighters? That's right. Billie Eilish, who swept the Grammys, she'll be on the show. And the Foo Fighters, maybe one of the greatest rock bands of all time. All right. That show, $17.50. That's all it's going to cost you. $17.50 for all of that in one night, safely from your home, while you're wrapping gifts on Festivus the day before Christmas Eve. Go get it. December 23rd, 101WKQX.com, $17.50. $1 from every ticket goes to volunteermatch.org to get people connected with different volunteer organizations in your town so that those volunteer organizations can get us back on track. Get this country going again. Climb up them ropes, all right? Firing up with that needle of the vaccine in our asses, ready to kick some ass. Big boot. 1, 2, 3, leg drop on the virus. Right, John Clark? All right, we're pinning the virus to the mat. We're going to WrestleMania, hopefully in some small form. Right, John? You got your Dolphins jersey on. You going to a Dolphins game in a week or two? Did you go to one already?
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago.
Did you go down to Florida for that?
Yeah.
How was it?
Great.
Were you spaced out from everyone?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Very
It's
good
fun.
measure in place.
To be at something live again?
Basically proves that I am very confident that WWE could and should do something similar. We'll see.
We'll see. We will see. All right. Yeah. Someone tell me it's a Starland Ballroom. That's what I was definitely trying to think of there. Thank you so much for that, by the way, Jim. This is going to be a really, really fun event. Please come out for it. It's going to be good. December 23rd, 101 WKQX, 1750. You can stream it on a bunch of different things. It's the same streaming outfit that the Foo Fighters themselves have used for their own separate show. And cheap, 1750. That's money you would spend at a bar that you're not going to right now. All right. So spend it on this, stay home, have a good time. All right. Have a ball. I'm going to be watching it. I'm going to be on air this week as well for 101 WKQX. Wednesday night through Saturday, I'll be on air. So definitely check that out as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. I ask you a question, Colin. Very, very serious question. We've asked some serious big ones here. When watching wrestling, John Clark, where are you going? I need to know what you think of his answer. John, do you want to ask him this question or should I ask him this question?
You ask him. You ask him.
John Clark. I'll ask him that. Colin, when you're watching wrestling, what's the most important thing?
It's most important, Kevin, to enjoy wrestling.